Hello and welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Caitlin Woods and I'm a project agent for the Restigouche CBDC's Hire for Talent project in Campbellton, New Brunswick. I'm joining you today from the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq First Nation on which we are learning and working. And join with me, as some of you may know, is Marco Pasqua, an award-winning entrepreneur, accessibility consultant, and an inspirational speaker with cerebral palsy. As an accessibility and inclusion consultant, he has worked with many business leaders who are champions for more accessible, inclusive workplaces. So without getting into too much detail, Marco and I will be discussing how employers can improve their retention in the workplace. And I want to thank you, Marco, again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us today about these important topics that are so important for the future of businesses. So without further ado, let's get started and I'll jump right into my first question I have for you. Great. So what are the links between inclusion and retention?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Caitlin, thank you so much for having me here today. This is part 5 of our webinar series. And I think retention is something that definitely employers shouldn't sleep on as far as understanding how to retain good employees. If anything we've learned throughout the pandemic, it's retaining good employees is really, really important because of the time that it takes and the cost it takes to retrain employees. And I always like to say that people want to see themselves reflected in the places that they live, work, play, and learn. It's something that I've said in some of our other webinars. And I think that that is where inclusion really plays a factor, is people want to see themselves reflected in those places. And by basically having an organization that works within what your community is looking for, depending on the types of service that you offer, and that you have a diverse set of staff who are there. But more importantly, when it comes to retaining people, it's getting their insights and their feedback throughout the process and making sure that every single person's voice is being heard, so that if there are changes that you can make within your organization to improve it, and to have people feel as though they are truly being included, that you're actually going to the source, going to your existing staff and saying, it's okay to get a little bit vulnerable and say, what can we do to improve upon what it is that we're offering as a product or service? And we want to know from you, who's one of our employees, how we can do better in that space. I think that if employers kind of put their ego to the side and say, in a time such as the kind that we're experiencing today, knowing exactly what our customer base is looking for and our employee base and having their voices at the table is a really, really important factor.
Yeah, and I think all the topics that we previously talked about as well, I think it kind of all goes together. You want to be included at work, but you also want to be appreciated. So finding that person with those talents and those skills that are fitting into your workplace will definitely make an employee want to stay.
100%. Yeah, I think like the number one thing that has people stick around in any business is the people that they work with. You may have a really incredible job in what you do, but 9 times out of 10, when I talk to employees, the reason that they stuck around for a particular job, even if they didn't necessarily enjoy the task they were doing, is the employee experience and the colleagues and the friendships that they've developed along the way. So if you're building a space where people truly feel like they can show up and be themselves at work, you are going to retain those employees because they're going to, be excited about what the next workday has in store for them and what they can do to learn and develop as a team and with their colleagues along the way as well.
Definitely. And just even that, like feeling included at work and knowing that you're appreciated, but also having that special bond with the people that you work with, whether it's your boss or your colleagues, would definitely increase the chances of that employee wanting to stay. So it could be something simple as, somebody coordinating like a team bonding activity to get all the staff together and maybe, learn about these people that you work with and know them on a deeper level.
I think that that's really important factor to bring up. One of the things that I experienced in the past with a former employer was they did have a team building event, but as you know, I'm a wheelchair user, and the team building event, I may have brought this up at another session of ours, was a soccer game, and I can't play soccer in the traditional way. So that in and of itself was an unintentional barrier that was created by the employer that they didn't intend to exclude me from it. But now all of a sudden I was feeling deflated because everyone else is out on the pitch, enjoying themselves and collaborating in that way, when really all they had to do was ask me, how is a way that I can be more involved in the experience as well? Even if it isn't playing traditional soccer, maybe there's a way in which I can truly feel involved. And all they would have had to have done is ask me beforehand, as opposed to just making the decision that we're going to do this activity where not everyone has the ability to participate in the exact same way.
Definitely. Communication is definitely key in a lot of aspects, for sure.
For sure.
Okay, so we'll move on to my second question. So what
Yep.
are the 5 key elements an employer can implement to improve retention rates within their workplace?
Okay, well, I'm really excited about this question because, it's actually quite an easy list for employers to consider. First and foremost, you want to start retaining employees from the moment you hire them. So what tone are you setting from your interview process to really show people that their voice is going to be valued throughout the process, even as they become a more senior employee, and that you really do want to factor in their considerations and their skills and talents from the get-go. And in that, the second piece is gathering employee insights. So I already kind of touched on this in the first question, but really gather their insights and don't be afraid to let them be honest. The only way you're going to improve upon your organization is if you truly value the insights employees bring. So even if it's information that you weren't necessarily prepared to hear, but it is going to improve the overall working experience for the employees, allow that methodology to exist, whether that's through employee surveys or other aspects where people can actually give feedback, even if it is anonymous. Provide ample employee recognition. So if somebody's doing great work, make sure you recognize them. This doesn't necessarily have to be, a trophy or some sort of printed out accolade, but maybe there is, as you mentioned in the other question there, maybe there is an employee recognition or a team building event where you can recognize people for their individual skill sets. Make it fun and consider having some form of a sports day or some kind of day where people can bring their unique set of talents or potential hobbies that they do outside of work into work, so that people can learn a little bit more about them and recognize them for those accomplishments on the job site. Here's another one that isn't always available to every organization, which is updating your compensation plans regularly. Up to and including a going trend these days is actually retention bonuses. There's a lot of new opportunities for employees who are looking for a different place to work. But if you want to keep them around in your place of work, a great way of doing that is potentially offer a retention bonus. So if somebody is able to stick around for 3 or 6 months longer than they initially intended, or they're giving you an indication that maybe they are going to look for other opportunities, is there an opportunity within your organization to offer them some sort of incentive financially to stick around? Because it's tough times right now. And we have seen a lot of success with organizations that are able to offer some kind of retention bonus. If that isn't in salary necessarily, maybe there's other forms of benefits that you can offer to have people stick around. And then the last and the fifth tip would be providing career pathing and employee development. So somebody may start out in one particular role, but are you actually working with them to help them grow in their life and in their career in a way that is meaningful for them? So, we all start off, sort of at the base in our employment opportunities. And is your organization prepared to provide further education opportunities, grants, or credits so that somebody can move on and become more senior in their role? So all 5 of those things in consideration, and I think you have a winning success when it comes to retaining employees in a way where they feel that their voice has been heard.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. And it's just like the littlest thing that, somebody could do to make them feel appreciated. Like it could be, giving them a raise or finding something else within their organization that they could offer that employee. But it could be something simple as, thanking them or telling them, wow, that was great work that you did today, or anything like that, I think would really help. So those are all excellent points. And I think, again, at the end of the day, communication is key. I think just communicating with both ways, where it's the employee and the employer, communicating together to make sure that, they're happy where they are. And if there's anything else that could take place to make them even more opt to stay, doing little check-ins, like you said, every 6 weeks, every couple months, to say, how are you feeling? What do you think that could be better? Is there anything that you dislike, anything that you like?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I would say the simplest way to put it is not treating your employees like another number that's in the system, right? Remembering that there's a human factor behind everyone who brings their full self to work, and recognizing that not all employers are comfortable with getting vulnerable or having an open door policy. But you'll realize that as the landscape has changed, especially with everything that we've learned throughout the pandemic and with hybrid workplaces, if you truly want people to feel like they are present, whether they are physically present in the office or they're virtually present, you do have to do those check-ins. And for some people as leaders, that may not be their strong suit, but maybe there's an opportunity there for senior leadership to take a pause, reflect on what they need to do to improve themselves as a leader, so that those individuals say, you know what, I am going to stick around with this organization longer, because the average lifespan for most younger employees these days are they stick around in terms of their employment life cycle, I should say, between a year to 2 years, and that's it. So it begs the question, why is that the case? Why are employees now saying, after about a year, they're starting to get the itch of maybe there's something else and something different there? The employers that are the most successful are the ones that are keeping it engaged, keeping it new and fresh and different. But as we've said before, is really getting those insights from those employees on how they can improve the experience so that people want to go to work every day and they're feeling refreshed to do so.
Yeah, and it could be a matter of like the employer being a little more understanding or picking up on little things that would be out of the norm for that specific employee. Like, for example, let's say they start calling in sick more than often. Instead of having the mindset of, oh, you just didn't want to come to work today, you just don't feel like working anymore. Maybe there's something externally going on. Maybe you're really not feeling well. Maybe you have health complications. Maybe something's going on within your family. It's a matter of maybe checking in on those little things and validating that it's okay, to have these issues because they arise in everyday life.
And just understanding that you are seen by your employer. There is that factor of listlessness and feeling lost in the work that you do, where you do show up every day, but you're not truly present. You're there at your desk, but you don't feel as though you're making a personal connection to the work that you're doing. And my goal as a consultant is to always say, what can we do to go into a space and actually have somebody feel like they want to contribute to the success of the organization? And by doing those check-ins, you're actually giving somebody the space to say, oh, okay, my opinion does matter in this situation, and you do care about where I see this organization going and the changes that are being made. Like, years ago, it would have been taboo to follow the approach of some tech organizations like Google, where they allow you to have a nap or a siesta, throughout the day, because they say, well, isn't that counterintuitive? But I say that as long as an organization within the framework of what it is that you do is able to get done the work that you need to get done, you're going to give people the opportunity of saying, well, hey, my employer does offer X, Y, and Z benefits to us, and that really does support us to want to make those changes and want to be involved. For example, I have a friend who works at Shopify out of Ottawa, and one of the things that I learned is that they get a particular a bursary of money every year, where they can spend that towards things that bring them joy or bring them health and fitness in their life, whether that's towards a yoga membership, whether that's towards a particular type of hobby they may have. Maybe you play darts or you have other things. They have a particular bursary of money that's set aside specifically for those benefits. And again, if you're a small and medium-sized employer, you may not have the opportunity to do those types of things off the bat. But what can you work within your wheelhouse to be able to offer employees something unique or different that potentially your competitor does not offer them? So I always encourage employers to think a little bit outside the box when it comes to those types of retention strategies.
Yeah, I love that. That's such an awesome, kind of incentive to employers. The other thing I wanted to bring up too is, let's just say, I don't know, an employee didn't want to go into work that day, kind of back on where I was at. Let's say they didn't want to go into work that day. And yes, the employer would pick up on that, but it's also the people around them. Maybe it's just a matter of an employee being like, hey, are you okay? And they can bring that up, to their boss if they're too shy. And it's a matter of kind of building like a workplace environment and a workplace culture that everybody feels included in.
Yeah, it comes down to one word, and that's trust. If your employees don't trust you, and obviously there's employers who don't have the trust for their employees. Like before we did work from home capacities in a lot of organizations, they said that there was no way that they could do working from home, because how would they know that the employees were actually getting the work done? Well, you know what I hear in a statement like that is that there's a lack of trust on both ends of the employer and the employee. Is that if you truly understand your staff and you know where they're coming from, you know that they're not necessarily just going to be sitting there twiddling their thumbs. They're going to be doing their job, but releasing a little bit of that control and understanding that you can trust these people, that these are grown adults in all cases. When you have a business that you're running, trust your employee to bring their full self to work in whatever capacity that looks like, and you'll be surprised at what you'll get back in return.
I think it's so important. Just retention in general. I know a lot of employers must be experiencing really hard times right now because there's such a lack of employees everywhere. So if they find that person that fits in their workplace, you want to kind of do almost anything and everything that you can to keep them there, because you may not find another staff like that person. So again, it goes back to appreciation and making them feel included and that they're worthy.
It may also come down to adaptability. So you may have a certain set of hours where you say, well, we only do things from 9 to 5. Do you have to do it that way? Is there a way in which maybe you could adjust your hours of operation so that you can accommodate more? Maybe all it's going to take is for you to shift or adjust your hours to start a little bit later or a little bit earlier in the day, depending on the type of work that you offer. So I think your openness as an employer to say, okay, well, we've always done things a certain way, but can we adjust these things to meet the demand of the market, but also meet the demand of the potential staff that we do want to retain? If all it took was us opening at 10 a.m. as opposed to 9 a.m. for more people to want to show up to work and give it their all, then what is truly stopping you from doing that if it means the difference of keeping the lights on and your doors open or not, right?
And I think it's a matter of having these kind of conversations and putting them out there for employers and employees as well, for everybody to kind of have an open mind and know that sometimes it's okay to do a change, and sometimes a change will benefit them in the long run.
Yeah. And as I've said in other webinars before as well, don't feel as though you have to come up with these ideas on your own. Sometimes there are similar organizations or other partners within your community who potentially have found the secret sauce for your type of industry on what's working for them. Don't be afraid to sit down and have a coffee with your competitor. Sit down with them and talk to them about what's been working and what hasn't, because if there is truly a competitive market in the work that you do, that's a good sign of where things are going. It means that people are hungry to get out there and find more work. So you have nothing to lose but to sit down with some of these potential partners or even potential competitors and ask them, what are some of the pros and cons to some of the adjustments that they have made? And how can you reflect that in the work that you do? Potentially there's a way in which you can do things differently than you have been up to this point.
Yes, definitely. So I guess my next question, I think we kind of had a good conversation about it. It was, what role does collaboration play in retaining employees? So I guess with that, do you have kind of anything to elaborate on from what we already spoke about?
Well, I mean, I would say collaboration is key in almost every aspect of the things that we work on. As I just mentioned, you don't have to be an expert in all aspects of the work in which you're doing. And sometimes people will bring new insights or new ideas that you wouldn't think of simply just because you weren't in the headspace to think of it. So knowing what your community is like, knowing how people like to spend their time and money outside of the work that you do plays a factor in the types of places that they're going to spend their money. Right. So understand your community, whether that's a small community in rural British Columbia or a very large city like Toronto or something like this. The ways in which people spend their time and money is going to differ. And I think that you need to really understand what the immediate community is that is accessing your service, what the kind of things that they like are, and who are the people that they're already working with or organizations that they're going to get those things done. Maybe there is a potential collaboration there that you wouldn't have considered otherwise. A great example of this is bars or pubs that don't necessarily offer, say, food services. And over the last 10 to 15 years, with the rise rise in food truck success, instead of saying, oh, we have to spend $50,000 to $70,000 to open up a brand new kitchen as part of our pub. Why don't you partner with, say, a food truck that's in the local community, and you can have them cycle through week after week a different food truck? See, that's a very easy way with it doesn't have you having to increase a lot of your overhead within your organization, but you're bringing in something fresh and different from another business owner who can offer you a service that you don't have to worry about any of those other factors of. And that's where that partnership makes sense. So is there something similar within your organization or your industry where you could find a partnership where somebody could fill a gap of a service that you're not offering, but it attracts more people to stick around and want to get involved?
Yeah, that's awesome. Great ideas. So I think we're just almost at our 20-minute mark. So do you have any other final words for our viewers here today?
Well, I'm going to say this one more time, and that is, with the changes that you've made to the hirefortalent.ca website, I think it's really, really easy to navigate the website now and to find some of the key things that you're looking for as an employer and an employee. So I would obviously encourage people to go to hirefortalent.ca, check out the resources that are there. Really, really impressed by how accessible they are, how easy they are to print off in PDF format and share some of these ideas and insights for people. But also don't be afraid to reach out to individuals like yourself, via email or myself, if you're struggling with ideas on how to retain employees in your organization, or to think of some different resource groups that potentially you could reach out to, or even having a focus group within your organization to learn how you can improve upon these things. Again, you don't have to be the expert in these spaces, but know that there are experts like myself out there and yourself who can really support these organizations to meet the needs of their community and the staff that they have. So yeah, I would just encourage them to do that. And it's been incredible to be part of this 5-part series with you. I really hope that people have a strong takeaway from everything that we've been able to offer in these webinars. And I know that the replay factor is going to be there as well. So I really look forward to learning from people in the future as they watch some of this content.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for bringing that up as well. We definitely strongly encourage everyone to go check out our website. There's a whole toolkit of resources out there. We also have a service provider map that you can reach out to, a service provider near you. There's all sorts of stuff. And as Marco mentioned, you can print them off as a PDF version if ever. So thank you all so much for joining us today for this 5-part series. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you all here, as well as you, Marco. As you mentioned, if you missed any previous sessions, stay tuned to our Facebook page where we will be posting the recordings of the sessions. That'll be happening in the very near future. And thank you to everyone who joined us today, and it's been a pleasure having you. We are definitely looking forward to future events.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Caitlin. Have a great day.
Yes, thanks you too, Marco.